I'd like to bring the Oconee County Planning Commission meeting to order. It is Monday, May 20th, 2024. I'd like to start with an invocation. If Mr. Nix, you...
Everybody pray with me if you will. Heavenly Father, we ask that you please watch over this committee and the planning staff and guide us to wise and safety-conscious decisions in support of the public. And we also ask that you watch over the county law enforcement, first responders, and other county workers as they perform their duties, and that they may return home safely to their families after every shift. And we ask that you please watch over the county and state leaders as they work to make the county and state a better place to live each day. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Haney, could I get you to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from last meeting? And do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any changes to those minutes? Well, they were pretty detailed. Thank you, Elise, for doing that. All those in favor of approving them, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. I want to thank everybody for coming that did come. That somebody must be selling cake or something somewhere else to not have any more people than we have tonight. But I appreciate you all showing up. As we go through the times up here, we've got 4 minutes. I'll hold this sign up with a minute remaining and this sign as the time is up for those comments. And right now, we're going to open that up to public comments for non-agenda items. And we have a Barb Leonard,
Yeah, Barb.
or Leonard, excuse me.
I'm from Kiwi Key.
And if you would state your name so that they would have it.
Yeah, Barb Leonard, Leonard, from Kiwi Key. So this is in regards to the 4 proposed subdivisions on Highway 130, and I'll just read this. This will affect the whole east side of Lake Kiwi traffic. As I understand it, Highway 130 cannot be widened. So what do we do about emergency evacuation? In an emergency, with everyone trying to get out at the same time, frantic people, accidents, blocking the road, our 2-lane road with 2 bridges and 2 dams will already be impossibly backed up with our current population. So if we're adding a population the size of Walhalla on these 746 acres with 1,900 homes, 2 cars per home, 5 access points, we will not be able to evacuate the east side of Lake Kiwi in an emergency. Echoing a citizen who was here on March 4th, Planning Commission meeting, a commission member said that we already have, oh, no, I'm not echoing. This is what I said last time. I brought up that the problem of the evacuation plan, and a member on the committee said that that we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves, that they aren't here yet. And it's my understanding that the whole point of the Oconee County Planning Commission is to plan before they are here. An emergency evacuation plan that safely accounts for the total expected growth should be first on the agenda before anything moves forward. Another concern about this is the massive drawdown on the water table and how it would affect availability of fresh water with this increased population. And at a previous meeting, echoing another citizen who had moved here from North Carolina, they recounted at that meeting how her community was a similar size to ours, and they went through a massive growth without well thought out prior planning, and she confirmed that it was a nightmare, and that's why they left. Some of the things they experienced were traffic circles, additional traffic lights, greatly slowing down traffic. How many times do you already have to stop on the way into town when cars turn left or when there's an accident with emergency vehicles blocking the road? They also had cracked roads from the deluge of construction vehicles, requiring all the roads to be fixed 2 times in 4 years. Healthcare, there was a physician shortage, longer wait times for appointments, no urgent care without appointments. And another citizen spoke about a community hospital, the community hospitals here, with the increased strain on our local healthcare system, with the recent increase of inflow of migrants, noting that they're now treating many diseases that they've never even seen before already. This citizen from North Carolina also said they had stressed resources for the fire department, EMS, crime, drugs, and vandalism. They also had a 50% increase in tax because there wasn't enough of an increase in industry to cover the cost of the increase in growth. Her child in 1 grade had 200 student increase. They had to have new schools, hire new teachers, redistricting of their children, forcing them to move schools. I had redistricting in Tampa, and it was extremely disruptive and divisive in our community, and it was emotional for the children being forced to move schools, separating them from their friends and teachers that they developed relationships with. There were not enough drivers or buses, so children had to be picked up in shifts. That happened for my child, with morning pickup shifts for elementary students from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Some children were not even getting home until 5 p.m. It was very disruptive to family schedules, and families with multiple children in elementary and middle schools had to have varied bus schedules between the schools. The developers are coming here to make money. They don't care about the negative fallout to the infrastructure, quality of life, or loss of character of the community that they leave behind. If we're planning for growth, limiting the population growth and proper planning of all of these issues must be done before they come, so that we aren't dealing with the mess they leave behind. Pickens County.
Barbara, I'm going to ask you to wrap through the process.
Okay. Pickens County put a moratorium on their new developments until their standards were modernized. Oconee County needs to place a moratorium on their new developments, as Pickens County did, until our ordinance can be updated addressing these growth issues.
Thank you. All right. That was the only one signed up for non-agenda item comments. Let's turn it over to commission member comments. Is there any commission member that wants to say anything?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I know one of the items that came up that I'd like to visit would be Chapter 26, Road and Bridges, dealing with the Section 2.
What is 26.2?
That is your private roads and private, let me find it here. Private road standards and regulations.
Okay.
And I have some concerns about the right-of-ways that were put in place. I think it was a copy and paste, and they didn't clearly understand the implications from doing that. So therefore, I think we need to go back and revisit that and get a clear understanding of why that was copied and pasted, or why it appears to be copied and pasted over from the other road standards.
Okay. We've talked about it a few times in the past, and we'll try to put it on an agenda in the future.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Chair, I do have something to comment about, and that kind of reminds me, I know we as commissioners definitely have things on our minds that come up, and we're apt to ask for those to be put on the agenda, which is fine. However, we had, let's say, over the course of 3 different meetings, we had somewhere around 50 suggestions from the public, which we asked for those to be organized so we could look at those. And so I'm feeling a little bit uneasy. I don't know exactly how we're going to try to address the public's concerns if we're maybe addressing our own concerns instead. So I'd like for us to consider going through a process of looking at the public's comments and us try to prioritize which ones of those would we like to address.
Absolutely. I know that we've gotten that, a list put together, that the office has put a list together, and we'll get that out and see if we can get that on one of the upcoming agendas. We don't have a meeting on the 3rd, is that correct? Of June? And then I want to say that the June 18th, we're having the presentation on the Heritage Road or,
The Scenic Highway
Scenic
is on
Highway.
for the 17th, yes.
okay?
Just for information's sake, hope you don't mind me mentioning, I don't think that'll take more than about 10 minutes to do, so I don't think we should reserve, too much of the meeting for that.
Right, right. No, there were some really good comments made. Obviously, we tried to address some of the first things first, just within some of these density standards and things like that. But I do think it's time to, and I appreciate the reminder, to get back on that list, to get that back on our agenda. So,
Thank you.
so we don't have a meeting on the 3rd, is that correct?
I was just trying to look at the calendar right now.
I got July the 1st.
Yeah, okay, so 5. Yeah, we just have the one meeting in June. Okay. We'll see if we can get that on soon to one of these meetings. Any other commissioner comments?
I just want to clarify that that's not, I don't know if you meant it that way, but this is not my personal agenda. It was, I've had several people approach me with this concern. When it was first brought out, there was a lot of concern in the community where I'm from about it. And I think that's something that we need to always pay attention to, is when you're taking property rights from somebody, restricting them. That's what's happening here. We need to understand why. And that's what I want to understand, why. Because as I drive up and down the county roads, there's no way they're using the right-of-way to that full extent. So why are we putting this burden on private properties and making the farmer who wants to section off his back lot to his kids have to have a 50-foot right-of-way? So I think it's something that needs to be reviewed. And no, it's not my personal agenda, and I'm sure when we bring it up, there'll be plenty to come in here and speak about it.
Can I ask you one question about it?
Yes.
Just for my notes. Are you talking about 26.2B or 26.2 in totality? I got it pulled up for you on the screen too. 26.2B.
Bravo 2.
Is private.
I think we need to review the whole,
Bravo 2 is what has the 50-foot right-of-way.
26.2, because it deals with
Right.
private,
Private driveways, private
Yeah.
drives, and private roads.
Correct.
So A, B, and C is, I was just asking specifically, do you want to talk about one or all, the totality?
I think the whole,
26.2.
the whole 26.2 needs to be reviewed, in my opinion.
Is that all the comments from commissioners? All right. So we're looking at next up on the agenda is county council tomorrow.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Can I go?
Oh,
Staff comment?
staff comments.
Sorry, just one real quick. I have a tentative hold the date for you guys for ACOG's annual training. It's gonna be July 18th. We're looking at that morning. Hopefully we'll get that firmed up here pretty soon, but if you will, please hold that date. Again, that's July 18th.
Save a date.
That's right.
We don't have a time yet.
Looking at the morning right now, but still trying to firm it up and make sure we can make it all work. 10 a.m. tentatively. And that is a Thursday morning.
Well, I just have a question. If you can't make it at that time, and this isn't just for me, it's for anyone that serves on the commission, there will be opportunities to make up in other places.
Yes,
and
there
things.
are, online options as well, so you can do the YouTube video class. You can do any of the municipalities, and they have several at the main building, the ACOG building in Greenville. So, if that doesn't work for you, just let me know. We can make sure we get some dates that will work for everybody.
Thank you. Do you have anything else?
That's it.
For the public, we have to do continuing ed training or training annually over some issue with regard to planning, either at a state level or local level or something of that nature, and that's what we were going through. All right, so let's get to item 8 here. County Council is going to be reviewing first reading tomorrow regarding our density standard that we had sent up to them. And wanted to say that it probably would be a good idea if one of us went and just during the public comments, just spoke to that. I think that while we've gone into great detail about it, I do always think that there's an element of the public that doesn't fully understand what's being proposed. And there may be even some council members that don't fully understand what's being proposed. So I'd love for one of us to go up there and just make sure that we give a rundown of what it is about. So,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that you as our chair would represent the rest of us, and that you would speak to the council at your earliest convenience and whenever you feel it is best to do that. You need a second.
I got a question though.
yes, sir.
Could we get a second on that, please?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you.
What was your question?
Do we want to do this during public comment as a planning commissioner comment? Or how would we fit that into their agenda?
When we spoke to the junkyard ordinance at the time, we did it under public comments as opposed to an agenda item.
Do we want to do it in the non-agenda comments, or do we want to do it in the comments? Is there any comments for that reading? I don't think there's any comments under the reading, right?
Not on first
So
reading.
it'll be, yeah, so it'll be under public comments for non-agenda items. I will volunteer to read a statement if you prepare a statement, if you do not want to be there. So, I don't know if that's, if nobody else wants to do it, because I will plan to be there tomorrow.
It doesn't matter to me. I can sure
But if
write
you will
you
write something down, I will read it.
Okay, I'll write something down.
Mr. Chair, we have a motion on the floor that's different than that.
That is true, sorry. There's a motion on the floor for me to read at the meeting tomorrow.
And we're still up for discussion, right? I
Yes,
think you, as being voted as chair, represent this body. And if you can make it, I appreciate you speaking for us. I prefer you to do it.
I don't mind doing it if that's, Mr. Nix, if that's the question. If you would
I
rather
would
do
rather
it,
you do it.
okay, then I'll do it. It's, if
I'm
y'all
just
want
trying
me
to
to do
be
it.
helpful.
No, I appreciate it. I can be there, and I can speak to it if y'all want me to speak to it. So,
Thank you. No offense, I hope.
No, none taken.
Thank you.
It's a good motion. Let's vote on it.
all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. I guess I'll say aye to that one as well. All right, so what time's that meeting start? 6? Okay. All right, so our next up for discussion is traffic studies. Mr. Adams had brought this up a couple of times back, and I know it's been on various people's minds. It was mentioned as one of those 50 items that people have been talking about. So we want to open that up, and we've got some public comments that we want to start with regarding that. So First up is Mr. Tom Markovich.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, I'm Tom Markovich. I wanted to, and I'm not sure exactly where this discussion is headed, but nonetheless, I did take the time to look in advance to see what it looked like it might encompass. The part about the impact on existing roads, I'm very familiar with, because that came out of a lawsuit that the home builders and I had against the county. And so, and when we get to chapter 26, I'll be more than happy to enlighten you on exactly where the private road issue came from. And so, anyway, going back to the other issues, I read through, I'm not sure why the Berkeley County ordinance is being referenced, what that's all about. But I can say this, that I do think third-party traffic impact analysis are really important, always have. And I can say this, that all the people who are doing these have to be licensed. They're licensed by the state. And if they're not doing it, they have to do it according to the standards for traffic studies, period. I think in order for it to be a third party, it has to be just that. And I don't consider, as they have in Berkeley County, a vendor who is working with the county on a regular basis is not a third party. I don't care if they're independent, they are still not a third party, period. They're a vendor. And so I would have issues with that, because I think if this thing is gonna be done right, it must be done by a third party. It needs to be independent, period. And so, we do that with, as far as the building industry, we do that as far as building codes, everything else that we try to do. Now, the county tries to use a vendor. I would never use their vendor, not because I know those guys. But why would I pay somebody for 2 hours coming out of Gaffney to do something for me? It just doesn't make sense. The other thing is, I'm familiar with some other vendors that have worked for the county on some projects that I have worked on. Thoroughly unimpressed, and paid twice as much for these studies that needed to be done over what they should have been paid. And so, this whole, I don't know, like I said, I don't know where this conversation is headed. But just based on what I've seen in this Berkeley study, in this Berkeley ordinance, I don't see a future there at all. Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, Will Hall.
Hi, my name is Will Hall, H-A-L-L, live in Southport Village. Have lived there about 17 years. I've been familiar with this area about 40 years, but I've lived along 130 for about 17 years. And I'm not here to complain or rail about the overcrowding which is happening. If I look back 40 years ago, Joe Cassie wasn't even here. There wasn't a road on Highway 11. Things have really changed, but they're accelerating change. But I'm not complaining about that either, because we live in a nice area, and that's what's going to happen. It's happening everywhere. A year ago, I spoke on the growth of South Carolina and how it was one of the top 3 states that people are moving to. And if you do it per capita, we're number 1. So we're going to be impacted more than anybody else. But concerning this study, there's some things. First of all, I echo what this gentleman had to say. It has to be independent. You can't pay the fox to guard the hen house or to tell you what the in-house dimensions are. That's ridiculous. So that's number 1. Number 2, and I don't know how you do it, but there has to be a study that measures the impact of the clog factor. We know we're not going over those, we can't widen those 2 dike roads, and there's very little, they're about 3 feet on either side, and you're right up against the railing. The number of vehicles that have been coming down 130 in the last 17 years has gone up by multi-factors. So when you throw in something, a city the size of Pickens plus 30% bigger than Pickens, and there's only one road that they can access doctors, groceries, pharmacies, Lowe's, Walmart, going to Clemson. That's gonna be 4,300 cars additionally, multiple times coming down. There's gonna be a huge clog factor. Now, the results of that are gonna be, as I was telling Mr. Johnson, I'd be willing to bet the ranch there are gonna be some deaths that are gonna happen north of that because ambulances and fire trucks and the police vehicles are not gonna get through on those clogs, so some people are not gonna get served. There are people who are gonna die because there's gonna be too much development up there. One road that cannot be widened, it's just a disaster waiting to happen, and it is gonna happen. But the other thing, I think, someone brought this up before at one of the other meetings that I think needs to happen, and my sister brought it up, when you have earthen dikes, there's a limit to the weight and the volume of traffic that can go on them. Somebody needs to look at, we're gonna have all these cement trucks and dump trucks and all these thousands and thousands of vehicles going by every day. How much can they stand before that they fail? And so 3 things: independent assessor of the traffic study. Number 2, we need a clog. Someone needs to look at the clog thing. I don't care about, we're gonna curb cut and get them out to the road. That's not the problem. The problem is 130, one artery. How is that gonna impact the rest of the community? And then the last thing was, what can the earthen dams sustain? That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Jan Barnett. Oh, yep.
I am Jan Barnett, and I'm president of the Southport Village Homeowners Association. We are a community of 32 property owners off of Sugar Valley Road, which is just north of Old Clemson Highway. Also off that road is Kiwi Shores, which is another 20 homes, and then there's a good probably 10 more homes along Sugar Valley itself. All of us must use Sugar Valley to get out on Highway 130. We're a closed environment. We have to go down Sugar Valley to get out onto Highway 130. And our challenge is that where we enter Highway 130, we have a blind curve basically above us. We did work with the state, and they put a sign up that said blind curve ahead, blind intersection ahead, slow down to 25 miles an hour, and that is just ignored. And even the speed limit sign, which is 45, is ignored. And so people come barreling down Highway 130 at a high rate of speed, and for us to then turn out onto Highway 130, we look upstream, and by the time we've made our entrance onto Highway 130, there's a car on our tail, almost every time. And then actually going back home from Highway 130 and turning onto Sugar Valley, we have a little dedicated short left turn lane, but as people are coming down Highway 130 and cutting over to go on left on Old Clemson Highway, they enter our intersection, our left turn lane before they get to the light. So it's dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. We've had a number of wrecks at that intersection. Adding 4,000 plus cars coming down Highway 130 is just going to complicate our situation many times over. And then, as Will said, during the construction phase, you're going to have heavy equipment going up and down Highway 130, and for them to experience that blind curve, they're not going to have a chance to slow down before one of our cars is pulled onto onto Highway 130. So that makes it even worse during the construction phase. We did take our issue to SCDOT, and guess what? They sent us back to the county. They suggested that we speak with a gentleman named Mr. Dixon in the County Transportation Committee, and to date, we have not been able to get in contact with him. He's too busy with other things that are going on, I guess, with the development. So we would love to have a solution independent of the traffic study, but at a minimum, we ask that the traffic study include situations like us. Not just the curb cuts for the development, not just the traffic in the local area around where the development enters the Highway 130, but all the way down to at least a minimum of Old Clemson Highway. That is the first opportunity for any of the traffic to get off of Highway 130. So we would ask that the traffic study include traffic flow all the way to to Clemson Highway, maybe even down to Highway 123. Consider all the congestion. Talk to stakeholders, such as our situation. We would love to talk to you, to the people that are putting together the traffic study. Consider intersection realignment. Consider strategic placement of lights. And above all, consider the lives that you'll save by taking care of concerns now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Torres.
Good evening, I'm Mark Torres, I live in District 1. Thank you for addressing the issue of traffic studies for major road developments. This issue is particularly important with respect to the Kiwi River development. I noticed that in the backup materials for this meeting that were posted on your webpage about noon today, there's a selection for the county ordinance that states, in order for the county to approve a subdivision site plan, a subdivision plat, or a building permit for a subdivision project, the county road or network of county roads that serves said proposed development must be adequate to accommodate any increase in traffic resulting from said proposed development. For all developments consisting of more than 10 dwelling units, the developer subdivider shall submit a traffic impact road capacity study demonstrating the impact of traffic upon any county road servicing the subdivision either directly or indirectly. Now, speaking with your staff, I learned that, with my understanding, that at this point in time, when the project was presented to you at your meeting last September, the presenter was asked whether a traffic study was to be prepared. He replied that the State Highway Department would make a study, since Highway 130 is a state road, and that the county would adopt that study. As I understand it, that's still the pending procedure. Then at your meeting on October 16, two representatives of the South Carolina Department of Transportation appeared. You quizzed them rather extensively about the Highway 130 study. They indicated that the study would be concerned with ingress to and egress from the highway, curb cuts, turning lanes, etc. But they said that their study would not consider the impact of additional traffic due to the project. The representative said, and I quote, "All we do is review and approve the access." Approve access to the subdivision, you asked? That's it, they replied. The development comes to Oconee County for approval. They come to SCDOT for access to the state highway system. Later you asked, do you look at the bigger picture? Duke Energy emergency response, especially across the dike? They answered, and again I quote, "We generally don't. Emergency services are a county function, as is the planning, so we assume the county is managing that portion of it." That's not involved in the road study, you asked? No, they said. So obviously, you cannot adopt that study. You must obtain your own that does demonstrate the impact of the development with respect to the ability of Highway 150 to accommodate any increase in traffic. Now, I hope the response to this is not that the ordinance refers only to county roads. Frankly, that would be a bit ridiculous. Why should the state control the approval of property development just because a state road runs next to it? The solution is simple. Amend the ordinance to refer to state and county roads. Or study the effect on the whole network of county roads that feed, directly or indirectly, into the Highway 130 corridor north of Seneca. But whatever you do, don't avoid the mandate in the ordinance to assure the adequacy of the road to accommodate any increase in traffic resulting from the proposed development. I apologize if I'm getting ahead of you on this, but this is my time to speak. I look forward to hearing your discussion of this matter.
Thank you. And there was one more that is to be read from Mr. Gary Owens. I'm assuming that he's not here. Okay. My name is Gary Goins. I reside in Salem. Regarding agenda item 9, I'm very supportive of the county taking more ownership of the traffic study process within Oconee County. I'm encouraged by the insightful discussion you're having on the topic. In my view, it would be helpful and appropriate for the planning department, for consistency in results, integrity, to have the county in charge of state and county road traffic studies. And of course, as is already stated in our ordinance, to have the cost for this service provided by the applicant, Gary Owens. That concludes the public comments. Mr. Adams, you had wanted this to go on the agenda. I think we've heard some good things, but I'll let you kick it off as far as kind of your thoughts of.
Like you said, I heard the same thing that the state said, and ingress and egress, that's all they do. They don't do a in-depth traffic analysis. I feel it's important on large developments or developments that are impactful. I don't know exactly how we're gonna determine that, but I'm sure there's a way we can. I think it's important that we have these traffic studies done so we know what the impact's gonna be on the community ahead of time before things get out of hand. There's a lot of details to work out. There's a lot of different things. But I think it's important. I don't want to rely on the state. The state doesn't have our better interest at heart. Oconee County has its better interest at heart. So I'd like to take control of the situation. And that's where we're going to start off from. Any questions? I don't know.
If I could ask a couple of questions to James, just to clarify, do we know, are there other counties, one, that overlay over the state? And two, is there any law that prevents us as a county from overlaying over the state?
What do you mean overlay?
Doing our own study, having influence over DOT other than ingress egress rules, in other words.
It's not necessarily having authority over DOT. So you can, and what has been done and what has been provided in the Berkeley, the question was asked, do any counties require the traffic impact study to be done by the county? So the county is the owner of that document as opposed to the developer being the owner of that document. It's done for the county, and that's what the Berkeley County ordinance is for, to show that. So that is a possibility. Legality is always something we should leave to the lawyers. You can sue anybody for anything.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I just have kind of a response to some of what I've heard. The biggest problem that I think we have is rejecting something that we don't like. Whatever ordinance we have would have to be so measured. It would have to have wording so that once something is out of bounds, that it can be measured that it's out of bounds, and therefore can be rejected. And, some of the difficulties that I'm thinking of, and I'm kind of shifting to another topic, is with areas that are included in studies, like, let's say an example would be near Ingalls where 130 hits 123. The state requires that a new development not negatively affect that. And so, unfortunately, if the traffic light there at that intersection I described is an F, then it can't go any lower than F. So therefore, it doesn't matter what a developer does, 5 miles up the road, because it's already an F. So, that's just an observation. So I think we're gonna have a lot of difficulties with this idea of overlay
You know, I can see that if we don't have professional input, including lawyers, that we would, most likely create something that's worse than what we've got now.
Real quick, while we're talking about that intersection, because that intersection has been topic regarding the 130 development. Is that intersection in the city of Seneca, in the municipality?
I believe it is.
I believe so as well.
And if I'm not mistaken, once it's in municipality, we are hands-off regardless if it's a county road within the municipality. Is that a correct assessment?
So, if a traffic impact analysis is done that states the level of service is falling below where it currently is, on a DOT road, the DOT is going to require them to upgrade to match the level of service that's already being provided. With the county road, typically we wouldn't be studying something that's outside. If it's not our road, we wouldn't be studying. Now, if it is our road, then yes, we would continue to monitor that and require it if the level of service is wrong.
The reason I ask it that way is because something similar occurred last year, a couple of years ago, over South Cove Park. There was the proposed development that would access South Cove Road, that would hit the traffic light there at Kiwi School Road and then hit the Bountyland traffic light as well. And part of it was in municipality, part of it was in county was going to get the repercussions, but the municipality was the one to approve it or not.
Now, if the site for the new development is within the municipality, then it's the municipality's responsibility to scope any of that traffic study. So the siting of the parcel would be of the road ownership in that case.
Gotcha. My concern was back when you hit the traffic lights, that became county. We didn't have the opportunity to have input within the municipality, but did we have? And from my understanding that we don't have influence over the ability to ask the municipality to review or look at something in a particular way.
We have not. Now, I don't know if Roads and Bridges does.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm struggling with this open-ended discussion.
Well,
So, here, let me ask a question. Let's try to start somewhere. So, we got some people out here saying, basically what I'm hearing is, we want you to make your subdivision standards more onerous with respect to traffic analysis as a result of those subdivisions coming about. So if I look in Chapter 32, Section 32-213, hotel, compliance with road standards. It's for subdivisions. It says, road plans and supporting documentation needed to comply with all adopted and county road standards shall be included with the submission of subdivision plans. Approval of the subdivision shall not be granted unless all applicable road standards are met. So now we ask ourselves, what road standards are they talking about?
That's the actual physical roads. There's a standard that the roads have to be built by.
for the subdivision.
For if there's a standard that if they're gonna eventually turn it over to the county?
Within the subdivision,
Correct.
So
yes.
that's only the roads in the subdivision.
So let's take it back to James.
So what dictates what in subdivision standards dictates any impacts on roads of entry?
Tell me where you were again. You were in 32-6.
I was on section 32-213, it's the requirements and standards, section hotel. I mean, here's the thing, regardless of whether I'm opposed or not to more standards, I would like for the discussion to be specific and understandable and scoped where I can make that decision. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with everything everybody says, but I would like to have what we're talking about identified in the ordinances, if it's there or if it's not, and then discuss whether we need it there or not. I think that's what these people are asking for.
I would agree that,
I was gonna say, the standards are what are in 26.2C, that private road standard.
Let's say that again, 26,
C?
Charlie?
Correct.
Okay.
what if it's a public road, though? I mean, what if?
26.3.
26.3. So that's where they're saying the road type,
Yes.
4 inches of gravel, 4 inches of asphalt, treatment of stormwater runoff, et cetera, those things have to be followed. But that's all within the subdivision itself and not necessarily down the road.
Correct.
Do we have anything within our ordinance that when they come out onto the road, that road is measured? Is it a 20-foot wide road? Is it a 22-foot wide road? Is it in other words, the road that they're coming onto, is it meeting the appropriate standard based on the homes within the subdivision?
That should be part of the scope of this study that's being conducted.
And that would be, if it was a county study, that would be part of the traffic study then, is to make sure that the road that they're coming onto meets the standards that we're saying that the subdivision itself needs to be.
Yes.
And do we have a distance away from that entry point that is,
Our ordinance leaves a little bit of wiggle room for the county engineers who was actually referenced, but it would typically be whoever's with roads and bridges, to scope that study based on the size of the development. So if it's, that 11th house, it's not gonna be nearly as impactful a study as it would be if it was a 2,000 unit, for just a number.
to go back to your question, I would agree that it's my hope here, this was brought up as a point of discussion because there were several people that had brought it up and talked about it, and but I don't necessarily know where to go with it, other than us maybe coming up with some ideas to maybe instruct James, can you look at these things, or ask James questions of, do we have this and is it important?
I mean, speaking of that, I think we should have someone stand up at the podium and educate us as to what we've got going on between state, county, and private roads. I mean, to me, there's these differences that we don't know about. I mean, I don't know what I don't know. So I need someone to tell me enough where I can see where the differences are.
James, if we, could we get Kyle or someone and yourself, excuse me, I guess we're gonna lean on you to say, this county has a shortcoming in XYZ.
Okay.
Would that be an appropriate?
I'd like to make a motion though.
Okay.
I see several people raising their hands in the crowd. I'd like to make a motion to give each individual that raised their hand 1 minute each to express their concern at the podium, announce their name. I know this is a little bit out of order, but
I'll second that, based on our agenda as being fairly light here. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of allowing 1 minute? All those opposed? It was unanimous? Okay. Who had raised their hand first? Tom Markovich, come up and we'll go from there.
Quick overview. All roads in this state used to be state roads. After home rule came into place, 1982, we had what was known, what I call the War of the Rhodeses. Not the Roses, that was in England. The War of the Roses was in England. The War of the Rhodeses. Okay, that was the counties getting in a fight with the state over the roads. And that's when the state said, you want roads? We'll give you roads. And the whole thing was over the issue of paving. That's how it initiated. But nonetheless, they took a whole lot of roads and gave them to the counties and said, they're yours, you deal with it, period. That was it. No instruction, no nothing else. All the other roads, state roads. And they have total control over the state roads. Only they are allowed to regulate a state road and whether or not they have to give you access to it. They cannot deny you access to that road. So they have to figure out how are they gonna allow people to access it. Beyond that, it doesn't go beyond that. That's where the regulation goes, and it's uniform across the state, period. That's it. There's a lot more to speak on this thing, especially when it comes to private, but I can't do it in a minute.
Next, so we have two more people that wanted to talk on this.
Mine's real quick. I just want to know, is there any way to widen 130?
Yes, sir.
Is that possible, or is it not possible? It seems to me like it's not possible, but, that's just me.
If you want my opinion, if you have enough money, you can do anything.
Dirt and pipes.
Well, is it probable?
They don't fix the roads they got now, you wanna widen the line?
So,
I don't think it's probable because it's not a project that's been identified. If it was identified as a project, it'd probably take 5 years to make it
right,
happen.
it would be, it would be
And the developer would
major.
probably not be involved in the project.
So if we can't widen 130, I don't see how with this population increase that this can work. I don't see it.
Thank you. Last person?
Okay, my name's Karen Whitmire, and I believe I live in District 1. I'm off 130 as well. We moved here about 2 years ago, and we moved from York County, South Carolina. If you guys are familiar with York County, it's gone through a tremendous amount of growth with the city of Charlotte being right nearby. We had issues with roads and the constant overdevelopment of houses in that community. This is why we're here. We love it up here, We want to make sure that if developments such as this size are allowed, that the infrastructure is in place, the safety, our water supply, all those things that matter to us as individuals here in this community. You talked about a study done by Berkeley County. Going down 26, our son lives down in Charleston. We've been through Berkeley County numerous times. They built that area for the Volvo plant. I've seen that. I've seen it. They're long, straight roads. Here, we've got rivers, we've got private properties, all this, like, let's say, Mike Johnson Road. We see it all the time. My husband and I go for a lot of drives around the community. So I just hope that when things are in consideration, maybe you do refer to York County. Maybe one of you have a friend who is in the York County Planning Commission. I think that they would be a good go-to person for you to find out what problems you may encounter in allowing a subdivision of this size. So, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you all. From what I have heard here and what I've heard in past meetings is that the DOT has ingress and egress. I would like to know what the county side does accessing a county road. Is it just about ingress or egress? I would like to know what staff feels like and whether staff is roads and bridges or staff is planning. Areas of weakness within our public road system as far as it relates to traffic studies. Are there any areas that we could improve if we unbottle this and start dealing with it? What areas would we be looking at and potentially considering? And then lastly, are there counties that are doing things, obviously in a legal way, that you all feel like should be implemented based on kind of what we're hearing in the public? Do I need to make that in the form of a motion?
Please.
I'd like to make a motion of what I said.
I second it.
Okay. Is there any discussion on that? And then this will be coming back at a future date, probably late summer, et cetera. Do we have some direction? Any other comment? All those in favor, say aye.
It's unanimous.
Brett, thanks for bringing that up as an agenda item.
You're welcome.
That concludes the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion that the staff get a copy of York County's ordinances for subdivision standards and road standards, just so we can look at them, if that's not too much to ask. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there a reason for just York County or the thought about?
Well, I mean, the lady said, we've got, York County as a benchmark, let's benchmark it.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
I just don't agree with just picking out, York County. I'd rather get someone to tell us which would be a better one or something, That's why I'm voting. I'm not supposed to have to say why I voted no. And so,
No, and that makes sense, and hopefully James is gonna come back to us with the
Well,
previous motion.
I think York County is a good example of a county that, it just went boom. I mean, I've been to York County many times and traveled to other nuclear power plants, and I saw them change over a short period of time. So, I think it's a good example. I wanna see how they responded to that growth explosion.
Okay. Very good. Is there a